Prologue, the beep. It began with a sound. A faint beep echoed through the empty corridors of Orion Infotech, long after the last lights were turned off. The storm outside had ended hours ago. Inside the new glass and steel tower in Noida's Sector 142, only the machines still hummed, patient, loyal, tireless. At 2:17 a.m., the biometric attendance machine at the front desk woke on its own. Its screen flickered, glowing soft blue against the dark reception hall. A message appeared for no one to read. In 02:17 a.m. User, unknown. The tiny thermal printer beside it began to whir, feeding out a narrow strip of paper. It printed a single line. Then stopped. Silence again. Down the hallway, a server blinked awake. The cursor on the monitor pulsed like a heartbeat. Letters began to appear, slowly, rhythmically, typed by invisible hands. If the system never sleeps, neither will I. The words hung there in the glow until the power surged and the lights flickered out. Outside, a firecracker exploded somewhere in the city, Diwali's fatting echo. Inside Orion Infotech, something older and darker stirred behind the screens. And by morning, when the employees returned from their week-long break, the office would look exactly as they had left it. Except for one thing. The attendance logs would show 7 nights of activity, all under a name no one recognized. R.A. Chapter 1, The Last Friday. The glass facade of Orion Infotech PVT, Limited, shimmered like a mirror under the amber haze of the setting sun. It was Friday evening, Noida's Sector 142, the last working day before a much-awaited 7-day Diwali break. The streets outside were already pulsing with early traffic, people rushing home, car horns blending with faint echoes of festive music. Inside, however, the new Orion office was almost empty, except for 2 glowing screens on the 5th floor. Abhay leaned back in his chair, stretching his arms, eyes heavy from staring at code all day. Nisha sat diagonally across the open bay, her dark hair tied up hastily, the faint blue glow of her monitor illuminating her face. The rhythmic tapping of her keyboard was the only sound left in the sprawling, glass-walled floor. Finally done, Abhay sighed, saving his last report. 7 days of freedom. If our manager doesn't send one last email, Nisha muttered without looking up. They exchanged a tired smile, the kind that only colleagues who have survived deadlines together can understand. The office still smelled new, like freshly painted walls and laminated desks. It had been inaugurated just 3 weeks ago, on Dussehra, with a ribbon-cutting ceremony and cheerful photos for LinkedIn. The company itself wasn't new. Orion Infotech had been around for over a decade, but the staff had recently shifted to this modern glass building after months of construction delays. There had been jokes among the employees about inaugurating on Dussehra, the perfect day to start fresh, when evil is defeated, the CEO had said proudly. But not everyone had found it comforting. The local priest who blessed the premises had paused strangely while lighting incense. "It's a strong space," he had murmured, glancing toward the server room at the far end of the hallway. "Built on reclaimed ground, isn't it?" No one paid attention. The party snacks had arrived. Back in the present, Abhay shut down his workstation and walked over to Nisha's desk. "Manager said to switch off the attendance machine and the main server," he reminded her, checking his phone. "You do the attendance one, I'll handle the server." Nisha nodded, sliding her chair back. Yeah, let me just finish this email." Abhay walked down the dimly lit corridor toward the server room. The lights flickered slightly, a quirk of new wiring, he thought. The hum of machines filled the narrow space, steady and low, like a sleeping beast. He pressed the switch on the wall panel, and the server fans slowed for a moment, then revved back to life. He frowned, tried again. The switch clicked, but nothing happened. Great, new office, same old tech issues. He made a mental note to tell the IT team after the holidays and left the room, locking it behind him. Meanwhile, Nisha stood before the biometric attendance machine near the reception. The small screen displayed a list of names and IDs, the company logo looping in the corner. She placed her finger on the admin scanner, navigating to the shutdown menu. Just as she was about to press power off, a faint noise echoed from the hallway, a door closing, though she was sure Abhay was still in the server room. She turned, heart ticking faster. "Abhay," she called out, no answer. She stared back at the screen. Her finger hovered over the button, but a message flickered briefly. "User logged in, RA." Then it vanished. The normal menu returned. She blinked, must have been a glitch. The new system was still syncing with the main database, it had said. She pressed power off. The screen went black. At least she thought it did, because as she walked away, the machine blinked once, faintly, behind her. It was past midnight when they finally stepped out into the cool air, their laughter echoing faintly across the empty parking lot. 7 days of peace, Abhay said, locking his bike helmet. 7 days of sweets and sleep, Nisha grinned. They waved goodnight and went their separate ways. From the top floor, through the glass facade, the office looked still serene, except for one faint glow. In the server room, a single monitor flickered to life. Lines of code scrolled automatically across the screen. And in the attendance machine near reception, the LED display shimmered awake, showing a new log entry. In 12:01 a.m. user, unknown. Chapter 2, The Empty Week. Saturday morning. The Orion Infotech tower stood tall and lifeless under the pale October sun. The glass facade reflected the empty parking lot. No cars, no chatter, no guards. The Diwali holidays had officially begun. Outside, the city was a riot of color, strings of fairy lights, rangolis, and firecrackers. But inside the office, silence reigned. The air conditioners hummed faintly in energy-saving mode. The green LEDs on server racks blinked like watchful eyes in the dark. Down the corridor, a wall clock ticked steadily, echoing louder than usual. Tick-tock, tick. Each second seemed to scrape against the stillness. And in the attendance machine at the reception, the small digital screen blinked once. Then again. The faint sound of a click, the kind made when someone scans their fingerprint, echoed through the empty reception hall. On the machine, a new entry appeared automatically. In 2:17 a.m. user, RA. No fingerprint was present, no face in front of the screen. Just empty air. Sunday. The second day. The power backup system clicked on for a few seconds, a fluctuation caused by the city's fireworks surge. In the server room, rows of machines hummed, green lights pulsing in perfect rhythm. But something odd occurred. On server node 3, one terminal flickered open, a ghostly automated login. User. Access granted. The cursor blinked, as though waiting for instructions. Then, lines of old system code began executing on their own. Files opened, closed, deleted, logs rewritten. Security cameras blinked red for a few seconds, recording empty hallways, static-filled frames, and once, the faint reflection of a man's silhouette passing across the glass near the server room. No body, just the reflection. When the power stabilized, everything returned to normal. No one would know until the office reopened. Monday to Wednesday. No human presence entered the building, but activity inside didn't stop. Every night, the attendance machine recorded new IN out timings, always between midnight and 3:00 a.m. Every morning, the system automatically generated attendance reports, as if someone was working late into the night. The cleaning staff hired for post-Diwali dusting came once and refused to return. The security guard, Mahesh, swore he saw a light flickering on the 5th floor around 2:30 a.m. When he went up to check, the corridor was empty, but someone had drawn a tiny symbol on the glass partition with marker, a triangle with a circle inside. He wiped it off. The next night it reappeared. Same spot. Same shape. By the fourth day, Mahesh requested a transfer to the ground floor post, muttering, "There's someone still working there. I've heard typing." The seventh night of the holiday. Thunder rolled over Noida's skyline. Clouds hung low and dark. Rain washed over the deserted tech park, flashing white in bursts of lightning. Inside, the server room door creaked open by itself. A faint trail of wet footprints appeared on the polished floor, leading from the reception to the elevator, stopping just before the biometric machine. The screen lit up again. In 12:00 a.m. user, unknown. Location, 5th floor Orion HQ. Then, something new happened. The monitor inside the server room displayed an automatic command prompt. EXECUTNG, return protocol EXE. Status, running. The progress bar crept slowly, glowing green in the dark. Outside, thunder shook the building, and the lights flickered violently. The digital clock on the reception wall froze for 3 seconds, at exactly 12:01 a.m. Friday morning. The sky was clear. The city buzzed with life again, Diwali done, everyone returning to normalcy. Orion's glass tower stood calm, gleaming in the morning sun. No trace of what had happened in the 7 silent days. Only one detail broke the illusion. Inside the server room, the main screen still glowed faintly. On it, a single line of text blinked. "Welcome back, employees." And below it, the same triangular symbol with a circle inside, this time drawn digitally on the system's wallpaper. At 9:00 a.m., Pihu, the HR executive, was the first to arrive after the holidays. She placed her handbag on the desk, humming to herself, happy to be back. The office smelled of newness and lemon polish. When she turned on her system to check attendance, her smile faded. 7 days of attendance records had been generated automatically, each day showing in-out entries for an employee ID that didn't exist. Name, RA. Designation, unknown. Status, active. At first, she thought it was a glitch, a data corruption from the new server migration. Until she noticed the timestamps. The in and out times were eerily consistent, always at night. Always between 12:00 a.m. and 3:00 a.m. She called out, "Nalima, ma'am, you need to see this." The screen flickered for a moment. And then, right before her eyes, a new entry appeared. In 09:06 a.m. user, RA. The office was empty. Her reflection stared back at her from the screen, but behind her reflection, just for a heartbeat, another figure seemed to stand. Faint, blurred, watching. Chapter 3, Cliffhanger. The morning after the holidays, the Orion Infotech office buzzed faintly with returning life. The scent of fresh flowers and incense from Diwali still lingered in the air, but there was an undercurrent, something different, something wrong. At the far end of the 5th floor, HR executive Pihu Sharma sat frozen before her monitor. Her brows furrowed deeper with every line she read. She didn't even notice when the elevator chimed behind her. "Pihu, what's the panic about so early?" It was Nalima Thakur, the head of HR, stepping in with her coffee mug still steaming. "Ma'am, you should see this," Pihu said, her voice barely steady. She rotated the monitor. The attendance sheet filled the screen, a grid of timestamps, names, and IDs, all normal until the holiday dates. Then, for each of the 7 days, one entry stood out. RA employee ID 0 in, 12:02 a.m. out, 2:58 a.m. Nalima frowned. "Who is that?" "That's what I've been trying to figure out," Pihu replied, clicking rapidly. "This ID doesn't exist in any database. It's not a new employee, not a contractor, not even a test record. It's just there." Nalima leaned closer. "And the system generated these entries automatically?" "Yes, every night during the holidays. Same time window, same initials." A sudden chill rippled through the room as Pihu opened the CCTV footage folder. She selected the feed from Tuesday, October 29. Around 2 a.m., the office appeared dim and deserted, the kind of darkness that eats sound. Then, in a flash of lightning outside, something moved across the frame. Both women leaned forward. A faint reflection, a man's silhouette in formal clothes, head slightly bowed, walking through the reception toward the server corridor. The figure was visible for less than a second before vanishing into static. The timestamp blinked at the corner of the screen. 02:14 a.m. Nalima's voice dropped to a whisper. This was during the holiday. Yes, ma'am. The building was locked. Security reported no entries. Nobody should have been here. Nalima straightened, uneasy. Call Abhay and Nisha. They were the last ones to leave before the break. By noon, Abhay and Nisha were standing in the HR cabin, both looking uncomfortable as the footage replayed. That's the server corridor, Abhay said finally. Yes, Nalima replied. You were both the last in the office. Did anyone else stay behind? No, ma'am, Nisha said quickly. Just us. Did you switch everything off? They glanced at each other. Abhay hesitated. The server wouldn't power down properly. I thought the IT team would handle it after the holidays. The attendance machine. Nisha swallowed. I turned it off, or at least I thought I did. Pihu nodded toward her screen. Then how do you explain this? She opened the attendance log again. New entries were being generated in real time as they stood there watching. Abhay's face paled. That's impossible. Nalima folded her arms, voice sharp but low. Let's go check the system, right now. The IT room was dim and cold, filled with the soft hum of machines. Abhay logged into the main console, his fingers slightly trembling. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. There, he said, pointing. User ID, RA domain access, legacy, admin. Nisha frowned. Legacy, that's the old company domain before the migration. He clicked open the log directory. A path appeared. The folder had been created years ago, 2015, but it had been modified 2 days ago, during the holidays. Abhay scrolled further. Inside were scripts, old attendance data, and a few encrypted notes tagged Rajan Ahuja. Pihu searched through the company's internal registry, her voice trembling slightly. There was a Rajan Ahuja, systems engineer, joined 2013. He died in 2018. Fire accident, it says, at our old office. The screen showed his photo. Black hair, mild smile, the kind of picture taken for ID cards. Abhay stared. R.A. Nalima leaned forward. And he wrote our original attendance system, didn't he? Pihu nodded slowly. Yes, the one that was ported over when we moved to this new office. The realization settled like a stone in the room. The system hadn't just glitched. Something or someone had come online again. That evening, Abhay stayed back, claiming he needed to run deeper diagnostics. He told himself it was logic, not fear, that kept him from leaving. But the office was too quiet. Every sound, the hum of the servers, the creak of the glass partitions, felt amplified. He typed in a routine command, watching the console scroll. Then the cursor froze. A single line appeared by itself. Hello, ABHAY. He blinked, thought he'd mistyped. Then another line appeared. Did you fix the server this time? His stomach clenched. He looked at Nisha, who had stayed to help. What did you just type? She asked. I didn't, he whispered. The air conditioner stopped with a click. The room went utterly silent. The line erased itself, then a new one appeared. The system never sleeps. Neither do I. The keyboard went dead. The monitors flickered. Somewhere down the hallway, the faint beep of the attendance machine echoed, a sound that shouldn't have been possible at this hour. Nisha grabbed his arm. We're leaving. They ran to the elevator, hearts pounding. As the doors closed, Nisha glanced back at the reception. The machine's LED display was glowing faintly in the dark. Out 9:47 p.m. user. Hours later, in her apartment, Nalima was reviewing the day's reports when her laptop pinged. A new email had arrived. Subject, attendance report automated. Sender, Norripley at Orion Systems. The message body was short. I worked while they rested. Someone had too. Attached was a PDF file, a full week of attendance logs signed digitally by RA. She scrolled to the bottom and froze. Embedded faintly in the white space was a watermark, a triangle with a circle inside it. The same symbol the security guard had reported finding on the glass panel during the holidays. The same symbol Rajan Ahuja used in his old development notes, a personal insignia. Nalima stared at the screen, her reflection trembling in the glow. In the reflection, for just a fraction of a second, she thought she saw another face behind hers, watching. And then the lights flickered. Chapter 4, Haunted LINES. The next morning at Orion Infotech was restless. People moved about the glass corridors with the usual Monday fatigue, but a strange unease hung in the air, subtle yet infectious, like static before a storm. Pihu couldn't shake off the chill from the night before. The email from RA kept replaying in her mind. No one else had seen it, yet somehow everyone seemed quieter today. When she reached her desk, she noticed something odd. The attendance machine screen was already active, even though she hadn't touched it. It displayed the day's first entry. In 08:32 a.m. user. Her breath hitched. She blinked, and the name disappeared, replaced by the regular home screen. She turned sharply to her colleague in admin. Did anyone run diagnostics on this thing? He shrugged, chewing his sandwich. It's fine, ma'am. It rebooted the network this morning. Maybe it's syncing old logs. But when he looked at the screen again, it was blank, pitch black. The machine had powered down completely. Down the corridor, Abhay and Nisha sat in the server room, trying to convince themselves that logic still ruled the world. Nisha hugged her coffee mug, staring at the monitor. It has to be code residue, she said softly. Some leftover automation script Rajan must have written years ago. Abhay nodded, though his eyes were hollow. Maybe, but code doesn't type by itself. He pointed to the console. The previous night's entry, "The system never sleeps," had been logged as an error message. Error code, RA03, user input missing. System note, manual override detected. The phrasing made his skin crawl. He leaned back, rubbing his temples. We'll rewrite the log files, reset all servers from scratch. That'll clear any ghost data. He said the word ghost without meaning to, and the irony wasn't lost on either of them. By afternoon, the tension spread. Phones rang with no one on the other end. Printers came alive, spitting out blank sheets of paper, each carrying faint indented marks, like pressure impressions from typing that hadn't happened. At first glance, they looked blank, but when held against the light, faint words appeared. Hello. I'm still here. Did you log out? The cleaning staff refused to enter the 5th floor again. They whispered to each other in Hindi, crossing themselves before taking the elevator down. Nalima tried to keep control. She called an emergency meeting, gathering the department heads in the main conference room. We're dealing with a system malfunction, she said firmly, though her tone betrayed exhaustion. No panic. We'll run a forensic audit of the network and it will handle the rest. Just as she finished speaking, the room lights flickered. Every monitor on the table turned on by itself, one by one. The company's logo appeared, then glitched into a different image, a triangle enclosing a circle, pulsing faintly in white. Pihu gasped. Ma'am, she whispered, pointing at her screen. The projector, which was unplugged, flickered to life on its own. Lines of code began scrolling rapidly on the wall, mirrored from nowhere. Abhay stepped closer, reading aloud, his voice trembling. Accessing legacy domain. User authenticated. Session start time, 12:00 a.m., October 29. Session end time, never. The lights went out completely. Someone screamed. When the emergency power kicked back in, all the monitors were black again. The projector displayed a single line of text, white against the void. I never left. Later that night, the building emptied early. But Abhay stayed again, restless and determined to prove it was all code. No ghosts, no haunting, just remnants of a dead engineer's script buried in the system. He walked into the server room alone, flashlight beams slicing through the darkness. The hum of the cooling fans felt louder than usual, almost rhythmic, like breathing. He reached the main console, placed his hand on the mouse, and froze. The cursor was already moving. A command line was open, typing by itself. User. Process, sync attendance system. Status, active. Abhay stepped back. Who's there? He whispered, heart pounding. The air turned heavy. The faint smell of burning, plastic and wire filled the room. The overhead lights dimmed to a dull orange, flickering in time with his racing pulse. Behind him, the biometric scanner on the wall lit up and beeped twice. The sound it made only when it registered a successful fingerprint. The green LED blinked. Then the attendance machine at the reception printed a slip. No one was near it. Abhay picked up the slip later, hands shaking. Printed in faint, thermal ink was a single line. Out 10:37 p.m. user, ABHWEG. In 10:37 p.m. user, R. He stared at it, the paper trembling between his fingers. The machine had logged his exit and someone else's entry at the exact same moment. Nisha found him sitting in his car in the parking lot 20 minutes later, drenched in sweat, staring blankly at the slip. She didn't ask what had happened. She didn't need to. Above them on the 5th floor, the office lights flickered again, once, twice, then stabilized. Through the glass facade, a shadow moved between the workstations. It paused by the window, as if watching them below. Then it turned and vanished into the darkness. Chapter 5, The Past Echoes. Morning sunlight spilled through the glass facade, scattering against half-drawn blinds. From a distance, Orion Infotech looked normal again, workers at their desks, soft hum of machines, printers running, life back to routine. But behind every polite greeting and clicking keyboard was tension. Word had spread. No one said ghost, but everyone said something strange. Inside the HR cabin, Nalima Thacker stood before the wall-mounted screen, watching the attendant's data scroll in silent repetition. The mysterious entries had stopped at dawn, but the system still wouldn't let her delete them. Every attempt to erase RA was met with a frozen cursor and a pop-up that read, "Permission denied, user active." Pihu entered quietly, a stack of files in her arms. "These are from the archive room," she said. "You asked for anything connected to the old Orion office." "Good," Nalima muttered, taking them. "Let's see what we're really sitting on." The files smelled of dust and damp paper. Logos from another era, Orion's old maroon insignia, marked the folders. The first few were mundane: contracts, maintenance logs, payroll. Then a thinner file, half burnt at the edges, caught Nalima's eye. Incident report server room fire /October 2018. The report was sparse. Employee, Rajan Ahuja, systems engineer. Summary, electrical malfunction in main server rack during overnight system migration. Casualty, 1 deceased, found near power unit. Below the text, a handwritten note from the investigation head. Server logs corrupted. Last recorded action, unknown admin login. Pihu swallowed. He died in the server room. Nalima nodded slowly. Working alone at midnight before Diwali week. Same timing, same pattern. She flipped to the back of the file, a photo stapled to the page. The image was blurred, but the charred outline of an ID badge was visible. The initials engraved on the metal clip read RA. Downstairs, Abhay and Nisha were in the cafeteria, both nursing cold coffee. Neither had spoken much since the night before. "You didn't tell her everything, did you?" Nisha asked finally. Abhay shook his head. "Would you believe it if I did?" "I saw the slip," she said quietly. Your name and his, same timestamp. Abhay looked away. It's like he's using me to clock in. Nisha's phone buzzed with a message from Pihu. Need you both in conference room. Urgent. They exchanged a glance and got up without finishing their drinks. The conference room blinds were closed. The projector displayed an aerial photo of the area, the new Orion Tower, gleaming silver amid old industrial blocks. This, Nalima said, pointing, is our current location. She tapped another image overlaying it, a demolition blueprint from 2019. And this, she continued, is what stood here before, the old Orion Infotech building. Abhay frowned. You mean the one that burned down? Yes, half of it collapsed after the fire. The company decided to rebuild from scratch, using the same land lease. Nisha's voice was barely a whisper. So we're working on the same ground where Rajan Ahuja died, Nalima finished. The silence that followed was suffocating. Pihu slid a printed map across the table. Look here, she said. Server room, a same position, same dimensions. It's right above where the old server room used to be. They didn't change the layout at all. Abhay stared at the blueprint. It's the same coordinates, he murmured, down to the meter. Nalima exhaled. We rebuilt his grave without realizing it. Outside, thunder rolled across a darkening sky, another storm brewing over Noida. The lights flickered once. Everyone flinched. Pihu turned her laptop to them. There's more. She opened a video file she'd recovered from the old backup drives. The timestamp read October 2018, 11:58 p.m. The footage was grainy, black and white from a ceiling camera. Rajan Ahuja sat alone in the old server room, typing furiously, papers everywhere. His expression strained, desperate. Audio was faint but clear enough to catch fragments. No downtime. The system must stay on 7 days continuous, then full integration. He paused, looking straight into the camera as if sensing someone behind it. The feed crackled and then erupted in white noise. The next frame showed nothing, but flames reflected on the glass walls. Pihu froze the video. He programmed something, a condition, a trigger if the system stayed active for 7 days straight. Nalima's voice was soft but cold. And this Diwali, for the first time since that fire, the system stayed online for exactly 7 days. Abhay felt a chill crawl up his spine. He built his own return protocol. The lights flickered again. This time they didn't come back fully. The projector glowed weakly, looping the last frame of Rajan's face frozen mid-stare. Then the conference phone on the table rang. No one moved. It rang again, sharp, metallic. Abhay reached out, hand trembling, and picked it up. Static. Then a voice faint, rasping, metallic through interference. I told them never to move me. The line went dead. Pihu's laptop screen glitched. Text appeared over the paused video. System active. Return phase 2 initiated. Nisha stepped back, whispering, Phase 2, what is that? Abhay looked at Nalima, eyes wide. Whatever he started in 2018, it's not finished. Outside, lightning struck close enough to rattle the windows. The lights flickered again, and in that flicker each of them saw, just for a heartbeat, a reflection in the glass wall opposite. A man standing behind them, shirt scorched, face obscured in static glow. Then the light steadied. The reflection was gone. Only the faint scent of burnt wires lingered. Chapter 6, Confrontation. Rain hammered the glass facade of Orion Infotech, turning the city lights outside into smeared ribbons of color. The building, a sleek shell of steel and tinted windows, seemed to breathe in the storm, each gust of wind whispering through vents and ducts like a voice carried down from the past. Inside, the office was nearly empty. The HR team had left early, shaken after the conference room incident. Only Abhay, Nisha, and Nalima remained, determined to uncover what Return Phase 2 meant before it triggered whatever Rajan had built. They gathered in the server room, the place where everything had begun. The air was cold, unnaturally still. Blue and green LEDs blinked in rhythm along the racks, casting the room in pulses of ghostly light. "Look at this," Abhay said, typing quickly. On the monitor, lines of code scrolled faster than he could read. "The return protocol is expanding. It's rewriting system permissions, integrating itself with the building's automation, doors, lights, elevators, everything." Nisha's eyes darted to the security panel. "You mean it's controlling the building?" Abhay nodded grimly. "Or it's becoming the building." The clock hit 11:59 p.m. The hum of the servers deepened, like a low growl. Every screen in the room flickered, displaying the same phrase. Phase 2, reconnection. Then the lights went out. Only the machines glowed in the dark, their LEDs forming an outline around the three terrified figures. A metallic click echoed from the hallway. The door had locked itself. Nalima lunged toward it, yanking at the handle. "It's not opening." Abhay ran diagnostics, fingers trembling on the keyboard. "It's overriding the fire safety protocols. How the hell?" He stopped. The cursor had frozen again. Across the screen, words began to type by themselves. ABHYKUMAR, access granted. NISHAVRMA, access granted. NILEMATHKUR, access DENID. Nalima's face went pale. "What does that mean?" Abhay's voice was barely audible. "It means it knows us." The emergency lights flickered on, bathing the room in a dim red glow. Shadows moved along the glass walls, slow, deliberate, human-shaped but featureless. Nisha whispered, "He's here." A soft crackle of static filled the room's intercom. Then a voice, metallic, distant, almost a whisper through a machine. "You rebuilt my cage and called it progress." Every screen in the server room displayed the same image now, grainy CCTV footage of the old office, fire consuming the corridor, a man stumbling through smoke. The frame froze on Rajan Ahuja's face, eyes wide, pleading. Nalima backed away. "What do you want from us?" she shouted. The speakers answered with distortion that almost sounded like a breath. "Finish what I started." Sparks burst from one of the server racks. Smoke filled the air, thick and chemical. The hum turned into a roar. Abhay grabbed Nisha's hand. "Move." They pushed through the door together. This time it opened with a hiss, like the building itself had allowed it. The corridor beyond was flickering with emergency lights, white, then red, then white again. As they ran, the motion sensors ahead of them switched on sequentially, lighting their path one step at a time, as if guiding them. "Where it taking us?" Nisha gasped. Abhay glanced at the wall map. The reception, the attendance machine. The reception area looked different now. Every ceiling light glowed faintly, poolsing in sync with the storm outside. In the middle of the lobby, the biometric attendance machine was alive, its small screen blazing bright white. They approached slowly. On the display were 3 names. ABHAYQMAR out, 12:01 a.m. NISHAVRMA out, 12:01 a.m. RAJNAHUJA in, 12:01 a.m. Nisha's hand shook. He's logging in again. Behind them, the elevator dinged softly and opened on its own. Inside, the floor lights glowed the same triangle and circle symbol. Abhay's voice trembled. "He's leading us somewhere." They stepped inside. The elevator doors closed automatically. No buttons pressed. No sound except the hum of machinery and the faint buzz of the emergency light above. The floor display changed rapidly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then stopped. The doors slid open. They were in the basement. The space was unlit, unfinished, concrete walls damp from the stormwater seeping in. In the center stood an old, rust-stained door marked server storage. "Do not enter." Abhay turned to Nalima. "This was sealed when we moved in." Nalima's voice cracked. "That's where the old fire started." The door creaked open by itself. Inside, dust swirled in the beam of their phones. Broken server racks lined the room, melted cables hanging like vines. In the corner, An old computer tower sat half-melted but still faintly blinking, its power led impossibly alive. Abhay stepped closer, mesmerized. This shouldn't even have power. The monitor lit up. Text began to scroll. System boot complete. Return protocol. Final phase initiated. User, RA plus AK integration sync. Abhay felt a surge of heat in his chest, like static crawling under his skin. The monitor glowed brighter. Lines of code reflected in his eyes like firelight. Nisha screamed. Abhay stepped back. But he couldn't move. His hands hovered above the keyboard, trembling, typing without control. Running transfer sequence. Host, ABHYQMAR. The old tower whined, fans spinning violently. Abhay collapsed to his knees, gasping. For a second, his reflection in the monitor changed, half his face flickering into Rajan's charred features. Nilima pulled Nisha away. Get him out. They dragged him toward the elevator as sparks erupted behind them. The screen showed one last line before exploding in a burst of white light. Transfer incomplete, awaiting confirmation. They reached the ground floor just as the power cut entirely. The building fell silent. The storm outside had stopped. Abhay lay unconscious, pulse faint. Nisha knelt beside him, whispering his name over and over. When he finally opened his eyes, they weren't quite the same shade of brown. He blinked once, slowly, then looked toward the still glowing attendance machine. It flickered, displaying a single line. In 12:45 a.m. User, ABHAYK/RA. The machine beeped once and powered off. Chapter 7, The Return Protocol. Dawn bled slowly over the skyline. Rain-washed streets shimmered like black glass, the city stirring as if nothing had happened. From the outside, Orion Infotech looked perfect again, its mirrored facade reflecting pale gold light, erasing the chaos of the night before. Inside, the silence was wrong. Too complete. Abhay lay on a cot in the medical bay, IV line taped to his arm, eyes closed but twitching behind the lids. Nisha sat beside him, a blanket over her shoulders, replaying everything in her head. The basement, the screen, that half-second when Abhay's face had flickered into someone else. Across the room, Nilima stood by the window, speaking quietly into her phone. Keep the investigation internal, she said. We say it was an electrical short, no statements, not yet. She ended the call, turned, and met Nisha's stare. You think a memo can bury this? Nisha's voice shook. We saw him. Nilima's expression cracked for the first time that morning. I'm not trying to bury it. I'm trying to buy us time. They moved Abhay to the HR cabin later that afternoon, closer to power, to monitors, to the systems they still didn't dare shut down. He woke near sunset. The first words he whispered weren't his own. 7 days. It needed 7 days. Nisha leaned forward. Abhay. He blinked, confused, then looked at her with vacant recognition. The system didn't glitch, he murmured. It completed its cycle. He reached for the keyboard on the desk and began typing, fast, precise, like muscle memory that wasn't his. Code filled the screen, long strings of Rajan Ahuja's old syntax, variables prefixed raw. Stop, Nilima ordered. Abhay's fingers froze midair. He looked down at them as if realizing they weren't obeying him. Then he said quietly, I think he's still in here halfway. Pihu burst in, pale and breathless. Ma'am, you need to see this. She projected a new log file found on the central server. Its header read, Return Protocol, Activation Summary. The document scrolled automatically, line after line. Condition, system on greater or equal to 168 hours continuous. Trigger date, Dussehra plus 7 days equals reinitialization. Objective, rebuild connection between old and new systems, physical and cognitive. Nilima read aloud, barely breathing. Cognitive. Abhay finished for her. He didn't design an attendance machine. He designed a continuity device. He mapped his neural patterns into the server code, his thoughts, his habits, his timing. As long as the system stayed powered, he would persist. Nisha whispered, and when we moved the company here, same floor plan, same coordinates, we rebuilt the conduit. Exactly, Abhay said. He couldn't reconnect until now. The system finally met the exact conditions again. 7 uninterrupted days, same date range, same domain path. We resurrected him by accident. The office lights flickered once more. A soft beep came from the reception area. They turned toward it, hearts thudding. On the attendant's screen glowed a new entry. In 6:45 p.m. user. R. Status, link complete 50%. Abhay staggered back, clutching his chest. He's finishing the transfer. Nilima shouted to Pihu, cut power. Pihu slammed the main switch. Nothing happened. The room stayed lit. Every monitor came alive at once, displaying Rajan Ahuja's photograph, the old ID image from years ago. His recorded voice played through the speakers, fractured but clear. If the system never rests, neither will I. Then static swallowed the sound. The power finally died, plunging the building into darkness. When the emergency generators hummed to life minutes later, every device was blank. No logs, no footage, nothing. Only the attendance machine had survived the shutdown, faintly glowing in standby. Nisha approached it cautiously. On the screen, a message pulsed in dull amber. Transfer paused, awaiting reactivation. Below it, another line appeared, slower, deliberate, as though someone were typing through the code. We share the same name now. She stared at Abhay. He stood motionless in the half-light, rain streaking the window behind him. For a moment, his reflection seemed doubled, 2 faces overlapping, one burnt and one alive. Then he blinked, and it was gone. The following week, Orion Infotech resumed operations under tight secrecy. The story given to staff, power failure during the storm. It replaced every machine, reformatted every server. But Nilima knew better. Every night she checked the logs herself, waiting for a sign. For 7 nights, nothing. On the 8th, at exactly 12:00 a.m., a notification appeared on her screen. Automated sync DETCTD, user, ABHAYK/RA, system stable. She stared at the glowing words, then shut her laptop slowly. Outside her cabin, the lights flickered once, the kind of flicker she'd seen before, right before a whisper rides the electricity. In the distance, thunder rolled across the city again. The camera would pan slowly away from the glowing monitor, down the silent corridor, to the server room door now sealed with a new warning sticker. Do not power ON. Inside, in total darkness, a single green LED blinked twice, paused, and blinked again, like the rhythm of a heartbeat. End of Part 1, 7 Nights in Noida. To be continued in Part 2. The Code Remembers.